Before we talk about the success, the forgiveness, and the shocking return, we must start with the night it all began. Maria was only 20 years old. She lived in a small village with her father, Mr. Okoro, a man known for his strict rules and unbending pride. She had dreams, but she also had a secret, a relationship she hid from her father's watchful eyes. And when that secret grew into new life inside her, the truth could no longer be hidden. When Mr. Okoro found out, his rage was like fire. To him, it was not just about a mistake. It was a shame, a wound to his pride. Maria fell to her knees, begging to stay. But his heart was cold. His voice was final. That night, she left with nothing but a small bag, a baby in her womb, and a breaking heart. She thought this was the end of her life. She didn't know it was only the beginning of a story that would change everything and shock the man who cast her out. In this video, you will hear the true story of Maria, how she went from being homeless and abandoned to returning years later in a way no one could have imagined. Stay with us until the end, because the final twist will leave you speechless. Welcome to Pure African Tales, where real stories meet real lessons. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and join us for more life-changing stories. Before we talk about the return that would shake her father's world, we need to understand the years that came before it. Maria's new life began on the cold streets. No home, no family, no one to call for help. Some nights she found space in crowded shelters, lying on thin mattresses that smelled of damp cloth and dust. Other nights, she slept under market stalls, listening to the sound of stray dogs fighting. She worked odd jobs, washing clothes, carrying heavy water containers, cleaning floors, anything that paid just enough for bread and tea. Hunger became a familiar companion, loneliness an even closer one. People judged her without knowing her story. Some whispered behind her back. Others looked away, as if she didn't exist. But inside her, something refused to break. Every morning, she touched her growing belly and whispered, "I'll keep going. For you." Her strength wasn't loud. It was quiet, steady, and fueled by the tiny heartbeat she carried. Before we talk about the success Maria would one day find, we have to meet the person who changed her path. It happened one rainy afternoon. Maria was sitting outside a small tailor's shop, shivering, her clothes damp from the storm. That's when Mama Ruth saw her, a kind-eyed woman in her late 50s, with hands rough from years of sewing. She didn't ask many questions. She simply said, "Come inside, child." Mama Ruth gave her dry clothes, a hot bowl of soup, and, for the first time in months, a bed she didn't have to fight for. But she gave more than comfort. She taught Maria how to sew, how to measure cloth, thread a needle, and stitch with care. She explained how to keep customers, save small profits, and dream beyond tomorrow. Weeks turned into months. And one quiet night, Maria gave birth to a baby boy, his tiny cry filling the small room they shared. She held him close and whispered a promise. "You will never know the hunger I've known. You will never feel the cold I have felt." Before we talk about the day Maria would step back into her father's life, we need to see how she built something from nothing. Each morning, Maria rose before the sun. With her baby wrapped safely on her back, she walked to the bustling market. Mama Ruth had helped her rent a small wooden stall, barely big enough for a chair, a sewing machine, and a rack for finished clothes. At first, she sold only a few pieces a week: brightly patterned skirts, neatly sewn shirts, small dresses for children. But her hands worked with love, and her customers noticed. Her stitches were strong, her designs unique. Word spread quickly. Buy from the young mother at the corner. Her clothes last. Slowly, her days grew busier. She learned how to greet customers warmly, how to bargain without fear, and how to set aside a small portion of her earnings. Each coin she saved brought her one step closer to independence. And as her stall filled with more customers, Maria began to believe something she hadn't dared to for a long time: that her life could be more than survival. Before we talk about the moment Maria finally returned home, we need to understand the turn of fate that changed everything. One busy afternoon, while Maria was adjusting a row of freshly sewn dresses, a well-dressed woman stopped in front of her stall. She ran her fingers over the fabric, inspecting the stitching. Maria expected her to walk away, but instead, the woman asked softly, "Who made these?" When Maria replied, the woman smiled. She introduced herself as the owner of a well-known boutique in the city. She explained that she was looking for fresh, authentic designs, something with the heart of tradition, but the polish of modern style. A week later, Maria's work was hanging in that boutique. At first, it was just a few dresses, but they sold out within days. Orders doubled, then tripled. Maria hired 2 other young mothers from the market to help sew. Within 2 years, her name was whispered in fashion circles across the city. Her designs appeared in shop windows, her fabrics on magazine covers. The girl who once begged for a place to sleep was now the owner of a thriving business. Before we talk about Maria's return, we must look at what life had become for her father. In the same town where he once stood proud, Mr. Okoro now sat behind a dusty wooden counter in his small shop. Shelves that were once full now held only a few scattered goods. Debts had piled up. Customers had gone to newer, bigger stores. Age had crept into his bones, and the weight of loneliness pressed harder than the debt collectors at his door. At night, the silence of his empty home was deafening. He would stare at the corner of the room where Maria used to sit, sewing small cloths as a girl. The villagers noticed the change. They whispered in the market, not about his failures, but about the daughter who had risen from nothing to build a business in the city. Some urged him to reach out to her, but pride was a stubborn wall, and regret was a chain he only carried the guilt of the night he turned her away, and the quiet hope that one day she might forgive him. Before we talk about the words that were spoken, we must talk about the moment everything changed. It was an ordinary afternoon. Mr. Okoro sat at his counter, staring at the empty doorway, wondering if any customer would come. Then, the sound of an engine broke the stillness. Deep, smooth, and unfamiliar in this part of town. A black luxury car stopped right outside his shop. The door opened slowly. First, a small boy stepped out, neat and confident. Then, a woman emerged, tall, graceful, wearing a tailored dress. Her presence seemed to draw the eyes of everyone nearby. It took him a few seconds to realize. The curve of her face, the way she held herself. It was Maria. His Maria. The daughter he had not seen in 3 long years. She held her son's hand, and together, they walked toward the shop. Mr. Okoro's throat tightened. His eyes blurred. His hands, rough from years of work, trembled against the counter. He wanted to speak, to call her name, but no sound came. Only the rush of memories and the sharp sting of tears he could no longer hold back. Before we talk about the offer she made, we must talk about the silence that came first. Maria stood in front of her father, the man who had once been her protector, and later, the one who had turned her away. For a moment, neither of them moved. The years of distance hung heavy between them. Finally, Maria spoke, her voice calm but steady. She told him she had forgiven him long ago, but that she would never forget the night he sent her away. Her eyes did not accuse, yet they carried the weight of that memory. Then she said something he never expected. She wanted to help him rebuild his life, his shop, his dignity, but only if he promised to treat others with compassion no matter their mistakes. Mr. Okoro's lips trembled. He looked down, ashamed, realizing she was offering him not just help, but a second chance. The little boy, curious, stepped forward. Maria gently guided him toward his grandfather. For the first time, Mr. Okoro knelt and wrapped his arms around his grandson. It was a hug, filled with all the words he could not say, and all the years they had lost. Before we talk about the lessons learned, we must talk about the changes that came first. Maria kept her promise. She cleared her father's debts quietly, without making a scene. New stock arrived at his small shop, neatly arranged, fresh, and ready for customers. For the first time in years, the place felt alive again. In the evenings, Maria would bring her son over. They would sit together, sharing meals, telling stories, and laughing softly. The tension that once filled the air was replaced by something gentler, the slow rebuilding of trust. And then one day, in the middle of the market, Mr. Okoro spoke to the villagers. His voice was steady, but his eyes glistened. "Never turn away the ones you love," he said. "No mistake is worth losing family forever." The people listened, some nodding, some wiping their own eyes. It was more than advice. It was a confession. 3 years ago, Maria walked away from this home with nothing but a small bag and a heart full of pain. Today, she returned with success, grace, and something even greater: forgiveness. Her journey was not easy. Every cold night, every empty plate, every tear she shed became the stones that built her strength. And when life gave her a chance, she chose to rise. Not in anger, but in compassion. This is more than just a story about hardship and success. It is a reminder that resilience is born in struggle, forgiveness is born in love, and family is worth fighting for. If this story touched your heart, give it the wings to reach others. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Pure African Tales for more inspiring true stories from the heart of our people.